Hi everyone. I just wanted to take a moment today to explain a little bit more in detail how the thyroid works. It's a large area that we specialise in the clinic, and it's also a very poorly misunderstood area of health. Partly because when we treat a thyroid condition, whether it's an underactive thyroid, whether it's an overactive thyroid, or an autoimmune thyroid condition, or we're simply just investigating thyroid health, we really have to be like little detectives when it comes to thyroid. And I say this all the time. I say it to a lot of my patients. We have to put our little detective hat on simply because we only have a small percentage of thyroid hormone in our blood, which is the blood is the only accurate, per se, way to test whether we have a thyroid condition. There's no other type of pathology that we can look at to investigate the level of thyroid hormones that's inside our cell. And when our thyroid hormones are inside our cell, that's where it's working on our health at the cellular level. We only have about 18 to 20% of our thyroid hormones in our blood. So when we look at thyroid hormones in our blood, we also have to understand some other things that might be going on in your body, which might be preventing your thyroid hormones from getting from your blood to inside your cell and working at the cellular level. So I'll just take a moment to explain actually how the thyroid works, and then I would like to address a few areas of things that might be going on that could be affecting the overall health of your thyroid. So if you've been following us, you've probably heard me say this a lot. I'm really passionate about thyroid health, partly because I've had my own thyroid issues myself, so I understand the symptoms quite well. So our thyroid is a little gland that sits here in our neck, and it's the pituitary gland up in our brain that produces thyroid stimulating hormone. Now that essentially just talks to our thyroid, and it tells our thyroid to make thyroid hormone T4 or free T4. Now these two markers, TSH and T4, are often tested by doctors. It's often tested under Medicare. Now, your T4 converts into two thyroid hormones. We want it, we want it to predominantly convert into free T3 or T3. And T3 is the active hormone. So this is the hormone that supports the speed of every single metabolic function in our body. Our digestion, our heart rate, our metabolism, our blood pressure, speed of thought, digestion, menstrual cycle, literally every single metabolic pathway in the body, the speed of that metabolic pathway is determined upon the speed of T3. So T3 controls the speed of every single metabolic pathway in the body. So as you can see here, it's really important that we have a really good, normal, healthy level, not too much, not too little, but an optimal level of thyroid hormone T3. Now, under adrenal stress, whether it's a short-term chronic intense stress or whether it's low-grade long-term stress, our T4 can potentially convert into too much reverse T3. Now, it can also still convert into good levels of T3, but it potentially also can convert into too much reverse T3. And what reverse T3 does is it blocks the function of the active hormone T3. It's really important that we're looking at reverse T3 as well when we're understanding the health of your thyroid. You can have perfect levels of T4, perfect levels of T3, but if reverse T3 is too high, it's going to block that function. Now, other factors that can affect the thyroid hormone conversion. So we have nutritional cofactor deficiency. Our thyroid, the conversion of T4 to active hormone T3 requires about 8 or 9 nutritional cofactors. Some really basic, key, absolutely important nutritional cofactors here are things like vitamin D, zinc, selenium, tyrosine, iron. Something's happened to my video here. Iodine, and some certain B vitamins. This is critical for the conversion of T4 to T3. Now, about 60% of this conversion actually happens in the liver, so it's really important we have really good liver health. And about 20% of this conversion happens in the gut. Now, gut microbiome is paramount. Studies are now saying that every single disease, condition, and symptom, there is a direct link to the microbes, the bacteria, and the health and the function and the permeability of our gut. So it's really important that gut health is addressed when it comes to thyroid health as well. Genetics, we do a lot of genetic testing in our clinic. I myself have genes associated with poor thyroid hormone conversion, and alas, I have had issues with my thyroid. So we can look at genetic factors here as well when it comes to thyroid health. Stress and adrenals. So this works in a few ways. So as I said, too much stress and too much cortisol can make T4 convert too much into reverse T3. It can also slow down the conversion of T4 to the active hormone, T3. And it can also affect our pituitary gland as well. And our pituitary gland is where the thyroid stimulating hormone comes from. Estrogen dominance is a huge area. So we often see most women are diagnosed with a thyroid condition perimenopausally or menopausally. I believe one of the biggest reasons for this is because estrogen dominant. So before we go through menopause, we get more peaks and troughs with our estrogen, estradiol is a type of estrogen, estradiol. Now, if we have too much estrogen dominance, the estrogen binds to a protein, and that protein is called thyroglobulin binding protein. And that type of protein basically binds to T4 and T3, and that's what shuttles and inserts it inside the cell, and that's where it's used at the cellular level. If we have high levels of estrogen, that estrogen binds to that thyroglobulin binding protein, and it prevents or decreases the amount of T4 and T3 that can actually get inside the cell. Other factors can also prevent the thyroid hormone from getting inside the cell. Vitamin D is a really, really important nutritional factor here, because that can prevent the thyroid hormones from getting inside the cell. And then we've got toxins and heavy metals. So any heavy metal toxicity or any excess toxic exposure. We've had patients who have worked in like printing factories where they're exposed to a lot of inks and toxins and things like that, end up developing thyroid conditions because of that toxic exposure. So some really key common symptoms associated with a thyroid condition include things like fatigue, and the fatigue can be absolutely debilitating, obviously depending on the severity of the thyroid hormone condition. Fatigue is a very common symptom. Weight gain or inability to lose weight, brain fog, can't think straight, can't get words on the tip of our tongue, forgetfulness, poor concentration, also really key symptoms. Constipation or a more slower, sluggisher metabolism is a really key symptom, and also changes to our thermostat. So usually more so with an underactive thyroid, we usually more so feel colder, particularly more cold extremities. That can be, those symptoms can be a little bit misconstrued and not quite always colder if someone is going through menopause, because we tend to also be a little bit hotter. So overall changes to our thermostat, and also hair loss, dry skin, dry hair. Thyroid is really, really important for the health and the integrity of all of our cells. So dry and brittle hair, thyroid is important for the strength of our hair follicles as well. So that's why hair fall is also a really common symptom. So I just wanted to share those factors that really affect conversion. It is so much more than just looking at TSH and T4. I would also really love to just take a moment to talk about thyroxine and thyroid medications, because we have a lot of patients who come to us. They were diagnosed with a thyroid condition. Let's just say they were diagnosed with an underactive thyroid and they were prescribed thyroxine, which of course is the right strategy from a medical point of view. So they come to us, they're on thyroxine, and suddenly, as soon as they start taking thyroxine, their blood test results are perfect. They're absolutely optimal, really, really good levels of T4, which is usually what's tested. Thyroxine is a synthetic version of thyroid hormone T4. What these patients are now telling us is their blood test results are normal, but their symptoms have not changed. So when that happens, we need to dig deeper and we need to say, okay, well, your T4 levels are now perfect. What's going on with your free T3 or your reverse T3? And unfortunately, it can have a more detrimental effect or no effect at all. So if there's a lot of chronic stress, adrenal fatigue, or adrenal health issues, that thyroxine that patients are taking potentially, depending on what's going on with that patient, potentially can be converting into too much reverse T3. Now, remember I said reverse T3 slows everything down. It blocks the function of thyroid hormone T3. So if there's a conversion issue, that thyroxine that you're taking could potentially be converting into too much reverse T3. Other factors are, there could be, like I said, nutritional cofactor issues. So that thyroxine that you're taking, there's just a deficiency, a nutritional deficiency, and that T4 or thyroxine is unable to convert to the active hormone T3. So it's not uncommon to be diagnosed with a thyroid condition, be prescribed a thyroxine or a thyroid medication, and your blood test results then return to normal, but your symptoms continue. So we really need to look at those factors that do affect conversion. So I hope that makes a lot of sense to a lot of you. It is quite a overwhelming and confusing area when patients come to us and they're convinced that they do have a thyroid condition and their thyroid test results are normal. We do need to look beyond just the basic TSH. We really need to be looking at TSH, T4, T3, and reverse T3. We also do need to be investigating if there is an autoimmune component. So the 3 antibodies associated with with Hashimoto's disease or Graves' disease is thyroid receptor antibody, thyroid globulin antibody, and thyroid peroxidase antibody. So they're the 3 antibodies that will affect the health of the thyroid as well.